Let's now go back to Norah on Capitol Hill. And Norah, drama is a word. I never thought that we would see the day where gang rape and Supreme Court nominee are even remotely in the same sentence. It is shaping up to be quite a day.
You're right, and that's what makes this hearing that we are going to see today so extraordinary, and why I've heard from so many people that they not only view this as historic, but must-watch television, because what essentially the Anita Hill hearings 27 years ago set off in terms of a year of the woman, a change about this discussion about sexual harassment in the workplace. I'm joined now by Senator Dick Durbin, a member of the Senate Judiciary Committee who will be involved in this questioning today. Let's start first with Dr. Blasey Ford. This is the first time we are going to see her in person and hear from her. What do you know about what she is going to testify to today?
Norah, first let's put it in context. Can you imagine this first time where NPR reports 6 out of 10 Americans say, I want to be tuned in and watch this? The pressure on Dr. Ford for her first appearance. You know, Judge Kavanaugh is under pressure too, but he's an old hand at Washington and how this works in judicial hearings. But she's under extraordinary pressure, and I've read her opening statement where she says flat out, I'm terrified. I hope that we take that into consideration, both the Republican prosecutor as well as members on the Democratic side.
She's not a Republican prosecutor. She's an independent prosecutor that the Republicans have chosen. We should point that out, an experienced sex crimes prosecutor. She'll be doing the questioning for the Republicans. Why wouldn't the Democratic senators agree to let just her handle it so we could have a hearing that it doesn't involve politics?
Well, I think it's naive to believe that because they've chosen a prosecutor from Arizona, politics are not part of the equation. And we happen to believe on the Democratic side, we were elected to this committee. We have a responsibility under the Constitution to advise and consent, and asking our questions is part of the decision process. The Republican senators, for a variety of reasons, have decided otherwise.
Let's talk now about Judge Kavanaugh, because today will decide his fate in many ways, especially among some of those Republican senators, specifically women, Murkowski and Collins, who have not yet decided how they will vote. I want to show you the Facebook page of Brett Kavanaugh that we have looked at, in which he talks about being on the football team, being on basketball, but he also lists a lot of things that he did in terms of drinking and women he may have dated in terms of high school. Is that relevant?
Of course it is, because we're talking about an incident that may have occurred while he was in high school. So knowing what his high school experience was, what he did, what he said, the lifestyle at that moment in time is totally relevant to whether or not this might have occurred.
Are you going to ask him about his sex life?
Well, I'm not going to get into the details of what I'm going to ask at this point.
Really? I mean, is that really what we're going to have here?
No, I don't.
Are we really going to ask a judge who's sitting on the D.C. Circuit Court about his sex life?
I don't plan to ask him about that, but I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to go into because we have 5 minutes. 5 minutes. So it certainly is going to be an irrelevant question, I hope, to understanding whether he is implicated in this or not. But I have to do it in the context of what's been asked before me and how little time I have to try to develop a line of questioning.
Are you going to ask him about some of the other accusations that have been made against him by women other than Dr. Ford?
I think what I'm going to zero in on especially is the fact that this judge, this man who in the White House was marshaling all of these judicial nominations for year after year, has refused an FBI investigation. He says, I have nothing to do with this. Yet, if he believes there's no evidence and no witnesses, why wouldn't he support an FBI investigation? It would have cleared him. We may never have had this hearing. Instead, he's stonewalled it, said no FBI investigation. And we're not going to call the one person who was my close friend, referred to in my yearbook, Mark Judge, who's at a Bethany Beach hideaway. We're not going to subpoena him, only Dr. Ford.
And let me just show you a picture of your college. You're the number 2 on the Senate Judiciary Committee. Dianne Feinstein is the ranking member. There's this picture that's gone viral of her, almost Lyndon Johnson-esque, with her arm up talking to Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski, who's a swing vote here. Are your colleagues lobbying Senator Collins and Senator Murkowski?
Lobbying is too strong a word. You know, we have respect for our colleagues on both sides of the aisle, and those who believe you can twist arms in the Senate just don't understand the modern Senate. Each of these individual senators on both sides is going to make a personal, historic decision. Do we discuss the issue? Of course.
Senator, I'm going to yield the floor now, as you would say, to my colleagues John Dickerson and Gayle King, who are in our studio. John?
All right. I thank the gentlelady from Texas. Senator Durbin, we've been talking about Republicans and what they're thinking, but there are a number of Democrats who are still up in the air about this. What's your guidance to those Democrats, and do you think any of them will vote for Judge Kavanaugh?
Well, I've spoken to most of them, and I will tell you, John, that they are watching the hearing with the rest of America. They are waiting to see the facts that come out. They're going to draw their own conclusions about the credibility of Dr. Ford as well as Judge Kavanaugh. So I would say many of them are undecided at this moment.
Which Democrat? Most of the Democrats have decided. There's just a few swing votes, like Manchin. Yeah.
Those are the few we're watching.
Okay. Senator Durbin, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Good to be with you.
All right, John and Gayle, I'll send it back to you guys in the studio.
All right, thank you, Norah.